On social media platforms today, quality content often goes unnoticed. On Den, users get paid for the creation, evaluation, and curation of quality content. Content creators are rewarded based upon the engagement and reach of their post or comment. Content evaluators are rewarded based upon the speed and results of their predictions about which content will trend or go viral. Community owners are rewarded based on engagement within their community. On Den, quality content pays.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Time flies. It's time for another DENDAO governance call. Today is January 12th. It's 3 p.m. Eastern when we do this every Thursday. And it looks like we have I Am, a fellow denizen, joining us on the governance call today. Good afternoon, sir.
Hello. How are you?
Doing okay. Thank you for joining. Looking forward to talking about a couple of things with you, since you are the author of one of the agenda points today. So thanks for writing up a little bit of an analysis on our quarterly report. I appreciate that.
How's my audio, by the way? Is it sound coming?
Sounds
okay?
fine to me.
Okay, good,
but good. That's just one opinion.
Can you hear
me? Yeah, we can hear you. No, it's fine. Apologies in advance for Daedra, my dog, who's barking out there. I didn't make time to take her out before the call, so I just kind of was lazy and let her out. And now she's getting out, blowing off some steam. So I hope it doesn't come through too much.
I might be in the same boat because my German Shepherd is just outside the window here, and I'm not in my office.
Fair enough. All right, it's a dog party up in here. So agenda, we've got a few things. So we've got an ongoing commitment phase for an LCP, January LCP. We've got, I'll just go over the agenda real quick. So we have the LCP to go over. We have the quarterly report to go over. We have an analysis of that report to go over. And then I had something that I wanted to talk about with regards to potential white labeling of Den and what that might look like. Yeah, and then any other feedback and input. So with the LCP, it's January. We have an LCP. We had some proposals that went in, including the current thing. I think you proposed that too, right? We were.
Yep.
Or actually, I think maybe you and Hyperion Frequency shared proposals.
Yeah, I said like I'd be more than happy to share it with him.
Cool. So yeah, that's something that it started out as a joke that turned into like, actually, that's a good idea. So I'm glad that went.
Yeah, I remember mentioning it. Something about we should do something like the kind of, well, I was meaning the current thing, but like the war in Ukraine and Russia.
It's like a news cycle
all that and could change
updates. Yeah, I remember you talking about that a while back. Something that could be like whatever is the hot topic of conversation can have its own layer that just morphed into something else when it was a new hot topic, or maybe it just stayed. But anyway, this will be a version of that, with some sarcasm mixed in, because the current thing, is one of those things that people joke about a lot. So it should be interesting to see how that rolls out. I would say if anybody's interested in co-ownership of that layer, or just voting on having that become one of the layers that wins, go vote on it. I don't know what number it is right now, but it's in there somewhere. So we're going to have the same winner layout as we did last month, because that has not been, there's been no proposal to change that. So it'll be number 1 by unique voters as usual, and it'll be number 8 and 21 by total lore committed. And I think 8 and 21, oh yeah, the current thing right there would be, right now it's number 45. There's 2 voters. I can change that. Let me go vote on that myself, because I want to get in on that action. So just hold what you got right there. Let's see if we can update that number. Go down the current thing, and I'm going to say, I don't know. How much is in there right now? I don't want to take too much. There's 120,000 lore committed. So I'm going to vote some. Yeah, that's good. Let's vote on that. All right, there's 3 people now. So that will update when it refreshes. Should be pretty quickly in there. So yeah, all right. Somebody else go and vote on that so we can play around in there. It's 39 now, by the way, by total lore. We just went from 45 to 39. I put in, I think, 21,000. I like the number 21. So as it sits right now, okay, yeah, let's see if that updated now. Yeah, go up. Nope, it's higher now because I voted on it. Yeah, 3 voters. Cool.
39.
Yeah,
pushing it.
So that's how that works. It's sorted by, in this category, lore committed. Now 8 right now, let's say it were to freeze and end right now, we would get number 8 selfie and number 21 animals. You filthy animals. Interesting. There's a lot of animal fans. We've got pets, we've got birds, specific if you believe in birds, and we've got animals, which is all encompassing.
And we got Noah's Ark. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm wondering if humans are included in animals. I don't know.
Zoo life.
Yeah. So that's going to go on for the next, looks like 4.5 days ish. And then that'll end and it lands however it lands. So get your lore in. If you don't have time to come in at the end and try to get last minute votes in, just make sure that between now and over the next 4 days that you throw in your lore on the ones that you're most interested in, so that no matter how they land, if the ones you really like win, you'll be in it and you'll get ownership of that layer. There was some discussion last week or the week before about kind of gaming it at the end. It's pretty hard to do, but it does happen. It's kind of, I don't know. I think it's fun to see them bouncing around, moving around, like people trying to get theirs to go into the winning slot. It's harder to do when they're down at the bottom,
right?
You know, so. Okay. So there's LCP. Next item, let's look at the quarterly report and have a glance over at that for a minute. That was published on the 9th. If you haven't looked at it yet, it is in the DENDAO layer. And so we've got metrics for the quarter that's in review there. And I was going to go over your analysis. I wasn't sure if you're going to be here, but I am for AM. Do you want to take that and talk about it a little bit and talk about some of the things that you noticed?
Sure. I'll take just real quick. I didn't focus in on total votes just because of, for the shortened answer, think of the whale factor that could kind of bump that up. So I was really just looking at total posts, in other words, total new content and total replies. Replies were very much up, almost a one to one. So it's highly probable if you make a new post, you're going to get some sort of reply. Of course,
I've noticed that too.
You
mean like replies or votes? Replies, you're saying?
Yeah, total replies. You can see as the incentives are there for that. I didn't on this analysis, kind of tackle the boosted engagement, tagging the MTR rewards, et cetera. That second grouping that's on the screen right now.
Yeah.
So I focused really on the total posts and total replies. In the gut check, the gut check, disheartening and concern is that the total posts were down significantly. I'm throwing out 2021 because of anomalies of, crypto market coming off of COVID, lockdowns, et cetera. So I throw that out. So I'm just really comparing 2020 to 2022. And you can see that the total posts were 82,009 versus 37,004 or 5. So, that's down 54%, 55%. That's disheartening because it kind of reflects maybe we have less engagement on the site. Well, we do. We have less engagement on the site in respect to new postings, which would indicate that we have fewer denizens on the site and fewer active denizens on the site. And so that's not a number that any platform wants to see go down on total postings.
I agree. Yep.
Which speaks to retention. So
Mhm.
we have to think, okay, is it a retention issue? And if so, why? Is it too complicated? Is there, I don't see what I like. There's too few people here already. So there's not enough people here to make it exciting or to have a lot of banter with. I don't know, on the retention question. And, or is it, incentive based? There are no other users that are out there in the world of social media, like say, heavy, followed user on Twitter or YouTube, et cetera, Reddit,
Mhm.
that has migrated over here to Den because there is no real incentive. And when I say incentive, I'm not saying incentive internally by MTR growth in one's, pot or wallet or whatever you want to call it, or account here on Den. I'm talking about real incentives that have monetary value outside of Den. In other words,
Gotcha.
moving MTR off of Den and then you know, then selling it off to say Ethereum on Uniswap.
Mhm.
So
I think
that's
that's I
why,
think that's a fair analysis.
yeah.
I've got a
So in
few I got a
short,
few
that's
thoughts
kind of
on
what
that.
I was. Yeah,
Yeah,
in
go ahead.
short, that's
Sorry.
what I was. Yeah, in short, that's what I was focusing on is user input to the site, and those it would I would think that those that are active seem to pounce on an entry and give thumbs up, thumbs down, as far as votes, and they certainly comment. So, in other words, for the few that are on the site, and few is meaning I don't know how many active users. Is it 100? Is it 1,000? Is it 2,000? I don't know,
Mhm.
because that isn't listed in the quarterly report.
Right. That's something
But
that we will see, for example, on the leaderboard, which I'll talk about in a minute,
mhm,
where we already have like it's ready to go. Things like displaying how many active sessions people are online right now, kind of thing, to give some sort
yeah.
of indication of that kind of stuff. What else were you going to say?
The last thing I was going to say is, and what I've bolded there at the begin at that paragraph that's on the screen, and I'll read it real quick. I do not want to see or hear a sucking sound of MTR flooding the marketplace from Dennis's cashing out their MTR. I know Joe has expressed this. You've expressed this. That these are things that we don't want to see. We've seen that in the gaming world on cryptos, that people pull all the tokens that they're earned and cashing them out, trying to make a
Mhm.
income off of it. I don't want to see that. However, there is a reverse effect, in my humble opinion, that if there is value in MTR, it will attract more users to the site. Money seems to make the world go around. It's
We
not
have
just
seen that. Yeah.
numbers
You
go
know,
up.
Yep, we have
You
seen
know,
that, and with some of the things that you're saying, it rings true to me. What I have, some of these, correlation versus causation, I don't know, but there seems to be an awful lot of things that correlate. One of them, where you talked about the cycles, 21 versus 22, hype cycle, everything's bull market, exciting, everything's possible. Bear market, crypto's crashing, people are pessimistic, they want out. That's
right.
that's an issue. Also, with people not finding as much, like you said, monetary value with the rewards that they're earning, that
Mhm.
correlates with a decline of engagement. People seeing less incentive to come in and create posts and interact and things like that. I can see
Right.
a correlation there. um,
So
mhm.
if I could
And-
interject right there, if you
yeah,
could scroll
yeah,
back up on the screen and look at the totals again
yes,
to that 2020, all the
okay,
way
yeah.
up to that image that goes with the post.
Oh, to the image. Oh, there.
Yeah, there you
Okay.
go. There. So let's take into account 2021 was a crypto bull market, and it has
Hmm.
nothing to do with COVID. Then that illustrates or could be evidence that says if MTR looks promising as far as a value perspective to go up in value, that's going to draw more people to be involved on Den and post on Den. And that's what the argument could state for 2021. I did not include that in this post. I did think about it, and I thought I chose to kind of hold back on that and think it through a little bit more. But if MTR and the whole crypto market as a whole was bumping up, and Den seems to be circles in more in the crypto world rather than in just the general world out there. You know, I could be wrong in that interpretation of things, but if 2021 indicates that MTR value was starting to climb back up, it drew in more postings. It didn't have as many replies because maybe those aren't hardcore denizens. Okay, where 2022 could reflect more hardcore denizens. I'm going to interact with this site. I'm going to evaluate postings. I'm going to try to make quality postings, et cetera, et cetera. Where 2021 shows total posts is the highest it's ever been, which wasn't the highest price that MTR ever had, but it certainly was trending upward, if I recall. So that 2021, if it was a crypto bull market and pulled Den up a little bit, then it attracted more users to the space, thinking that MTR was they were wanting to get involved, get an account, and speculate with MTR as well. Because remember, you can speculate with MTR without being in Den.
That's true
so
too.
This
yeah,
tells me people were speculating on MTR's price and getting involved in Den. But that's something for maybe debate later, or I don't want to take up a lot of time on the show. But
this is actually.
I think that this could not show. I'm sorry, meeting.
Yeah, that's all right.
I think that this could 2021 could indicate that the incentive is there. If MTR looks like it's going to go up in value, it might pull more people in and hook them. Then 2022 would say that the retention problem was the crypto world. Okay. And not only was it the crypto world, but is that also why 2022 is so dismal compared to 2020? I don't know. 2020 certainly had a spark because we had a spark of growth and new users that was exciting, you know.
Something else that we had in 22. And the reason that this comes to mind right now is because it's it's something else I wanted to talk about, and it's very related. And actually, these numbers in the way that you've analyzed them has, although it's not numbers we want to see, it actually makes me feel better about the next thing I want to talk about, which is so a two-part thing. One of it, something else in 2022, is that we actually had to halt our dev priorities cadence to start addressing like people that were literally just trying to manipulate the algorithm, the consensus mechanisms to get more matter rewards.
Right.
A lot of that we've seen go away. A lot of that, the solution isn't in yet, but I actually think I'm finishing it up over the weekend. It's that close.
Okay.
So,
but do you think that affected total posts?
Well, here's what I'm thinking is not entirely, but partially, yes, because the rewards that you used to get, let's say in 2021, right? You used to be able to reliably get a pretty high matter payout on a quality piece of content. Whereas in 2022, there were a lot of active, there's even one instance where there was literally like a whole bunch of, it was like a botnet is what it looked like, where there were accounts that never posted and never replied, and they were named like a serial number, not even a name, where they were just going around and they were voting one energy because you get free energy, right? When you get 21 free energy. And so what they were doing is they were going around and they were voting to tip consensus on stuff to manipulate for the ringleader, for the actual account that was controlling them all, right? So we saw stuff like that for the first time in 22.
Okay.
And one of the effects of that is that there's only 1,000 matter a day, right? So if there is a drain on the rewards inappropriately, meaning like something that is, being it's being malicious, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
What you're doing is you're taking rewards away from folks that would have gotten them had that not been there. And so overall, regardless or independent of the external price of matter, you saw the average matter rewards that you're getting drop. So people, not only was the matter itself not valued as much on the open market, but the number of matter tokens that people were getting was going down.
Okay.
Right? Which is not what we want to see.
Right.
So with that said, I was talking to a team member before the call as we were getting ready, and like here's where I'm at. You know me, I don't like making people upset. I don't like it. I don't like making people mad. You know what I mean?
You're a peacemaker. Got it.
Yeah.
I've gotten to know you well enough to say that.
We've talked in the past about, if you remember Joe's design for a bell curve on evaluation scores, where you have to start being even-handed, vote some up, vote some down, maybe vote some up a lot and some up a little bit, a variety of different types of voting instead of always voting down or always voting up, that kind of thing.
Right.
Because the reality is you're a more valuable evaluator if you put some thought into it and you do it objectively than if you're somebody who, admittedly, I typically vote stuff up, right? Okay. I had to change my behavior too. So what we've got ready to go, my concern is that it's going to change the evaluation game such that people that kind of have it easy right now, where they can sort of just kind of mindlessly vote on stuff and get some rewards for it, are going to not be getting rewarded for just kind of, I don't know if you want to call it lazy voting or not not objectively thinking about how they're voting. Okay. And the reason that what you said makes me feel better about that is because if it was the case that what we've had going on so far was working and that reflected in the data that it was working, I would be hesitant to to move on with a change that we've already approved, of course. But like, I wouldn't want to mess up the system if it was working well for retention and for what people want and rewards and things like that. It looks like it's not necessarily working well for a lot of people because we've seen a lack of retention and people are leaving. So it makes me think that that's the right call, that we do need to have kind of like, now it won't change, for example, who gets, rewarded for content that they post and the reputation they receive for that and stuff like that. It should only affect evaluators and how they're weighted, right? So I guess really it's just a heads up to say we're pretty much ready to move back into doing the leaderboard again, so we can look at live data on a leaderboard that's meaningful with interesting numbers that we can add to over, like we can continuously add stuff to it or remove it if it doesn't matter and stuff like that. But as we do that, we're going to see definitely there should be a change, a pretty noticeable change in how evaluation, you can call it reputation. I guess it's more about how evaluators are rewarded, right? So what that's going to do is the people that are, I won't call them out, but I know them by name by now because I've been looking at the data for so long, for a couple of weeks now. But for the people that are very good evaluators, that are noticeably voting a lot, but also voting not the same way every time and not the same amount every time, right? The data, the on-chain data reflects that there are some very good evaluators out there, and we want to incentivize them over people who maybe 95% of the time vote the same way on every single piece of content, no matter what the content is. That's less valuable, right? So the thing is, there's a lot of people that do that. I do that a lot, So
Hmm.
that'll be
I see.
interesting.
Yeah, I could.
It'll be interesting to see
I
because
might.
you're going to have the evaluators who are doing a really good job are going to suddenly start getting rewarded more because the evaluators that are not necessarily as valuable are going to start getting rewarded less for that effort. And at the same time, whenever you look at people who are posting content, the evaluations of their content are going to also be weighted by the relative value of that evaluator, if that makes sense, right?
Yes.
So the people that the evaluators, the people who are taking their time to judge content and evaluate objectively and very well are suddenly very valuable denizens because not only do they get rewarded more, but they also have more of a say in the consensus effectively, not directly, but effectively.
Right.
So that's
Well,
going to be, I'm wondering, I guess what the last part of that is, I'm just wondering, like, that should be interesting because then you should see at least a change in how the rewards are calculated for different content based on interactions and reputations. At that point, we're bringing more behavioral reputation into how that works is the end result.
Okay.
Right.
Well, shooting from the hip, maybe not thinking this through, but going back to what you said about Joe's bell curve and reputation and, putting more emphasis on evaluating, because we're dealing with such small numbers of active users, and I'm meaning small numbers, don't take it personal, those that are watching, listening, whatever. It's small numbers in relative to other social media sites. And we could be in a situation where we could come down too harsh in evaluating, and some people aren't going to understand that well enough, be offended, and create another retention problem.
Yeah,
I'm thinking
that's part of my concern, to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm shooting from the hip, but I'm just thinking out loud. The second part of it is we need to start thinking of how do we get more users, because more users might also eliminate some of the problems that we've had. And I've spoken about this before in prior meetings. Some of our problems of one user being, stalked and downvoted on everything that user does.
Yeah.
If you have more users,
pond,
it's
right.
Yeah, exactly. It's easier to do that. And a small pond, it's easier to manipulate with bot and game the system or whatever. But we do need to address it and get the algorithms to figure this out, so it is a fair and just algo.
Yeah. And it's working. It's just that what there is to finish is like getting it to where here's what's working is it's detecting the right accounts. It's just detecting also some of the wrong accounts.
I gotcha.
So the false positives are too high. That I think I have a couple of solutions for that should work out. It's also automatically adding and removing people from this people don't. It's not sticky, right? Every day there's new evaluations. So it's not like you're going to go on a list and stay there until like you contact support or some shit like that. With this system, it's going to automatically every day remove people and add people in different categories, like adjusting their reputation, right? So that's actually really good because even in the cases where there maybe is a false positive, sometimes you'll fall off of your reputation will heal naturally. And you can even be a bad actor for like a day or two and notice that affects your rewards and then stop. And then you'll automatically end up with a better reputation, and you'll be in the clear again, right? So there won't need to be any manual tinkering with that, which is what we want, especially for scalability. But for scalability, you also need to scale and have, like you said, people coming in. So one of the things
we do.
Yeah.
One thing I didn't mention here was, remember, going back to these numbers here in Total Post, we've had amazing development and functionality added to Den. chat and direct messaging and the tipping function and a
Yeah, some
lot of
pretty
this
big
stuff
things.
that
Yeah.
did not exist through most of 2021. So we can't point to functionality being a problem or it being buggy to being a problem, because I quite honestly feel it's been very stable. Um, so, um,
And what does that leave though? That leaves, and I hate to say it, it's, but it leaves kind of like, how much can people earn in rewards?
yeah,
You know,
it's
kind of.
unfortunately a part of life is number go up, like it or hate it. That's what I
So
put I think at the end of my posting was just
yeah,
that.
so I'm receptive to that. I'm not dismissive of
Mhm.
it.
Yeah.
And,
So
and so I got a couple of ideas on that too, if you want to talk about that real
sure.
quick. So I am, okay, let's see. How do I put this? There's a small handful of private layers, and there's a couple of more that have high interest or are basically 90% sure they're coming in to do a private layer. Private layer is not free like the LCPs are. And DENDAO charges 1 Ether for a private layer. There's also an option
Uh-huh.
for a 20% discount if you pay in Matter, right? So
Right.
one of the things we could do is we could, as a community, we could find DAOs that maybe, for example, I'll give you an example of one DAO without naming them, who are currently on a different platform, and that platform is not really great for them. They don't like it so much.
Mm-hmm.
I spent about 3 hours with them last night to like 10 or 10:30 last night, going over the ins and outs of Den in a way that answered all their questions thoroughly and to the point where they think like they just got to pass a DAO vote to make sure that they can come in.
Uh-huh.
I explained to them, the option of paying in Ether or paying in Matter. They're probably going to pay in Matter. I would like them to pay in Matter because what that means is they need to go get some Matter. And so
Right.
one of the things we need people to do is do that, for example, right? To go on the open market and have a reason to bring some of that into Den from
Bingo.
the outside.
Bingo. Because see, now you're creating another value for Matter, and the marketplace will it's a free market, so
Right.
we like to think it's less manipulated than it is. So it will put pressure for the Matter price to go up, which in turn, if
In a natural
2021
way, which is important, in a way that is
right,
not manipulated up and is not like, like somebody pretending that it's worth something. It's an
right,
actual real organization with an actual real need to grab that utility token to use it for what it's meant for, which is to bring it in and use it to pay a setup fee for creating a layer.
bingo,
And the
and
more people
that
that
would
do that, the more balanced our economy becomes.
well, my first thought is, the great idea of that happening, and maybe we should force people to buy Matter to create a layer rather than Ethereum,
That
because it
could be.
forces upward price pressure for Matter, which would then confirm that if 2021 was because of the crypto bull market, that could draw more people to Den.
Right.
You
Yeah.
follow?
Right now we have a strong incentive. Like 20% is pretty good. But you're right. We could, if we decided that wasn't enough. On the other hand, I wouldn't want like some people might be comfortable paying in Ether. Well, they might not want to go through the hassle of going to like figure out where to get Matter and bring that in. So
Well,
the
tough
option
shit.
is,
We the tough shit is my feeling is,
yeah,
you
yeah,
want to buy this, you're going to buy it in our currency. I'm using the word currency, meaning if I'm
yeah.
in Mexico and hey, I want to buy this car off of this lot, well, we only accept pesos. Sorry. Oh,
Gotcha.
okay. Well, then it's
Gotcha.
my job because I want the car. I got to convert it.
That's okay.
You know,
Yeah, that's fair.
that's kind of how I feel. Drive the customer's always right, but the customer also still has to comply with what it's being sold for. It's part of the contract.
Yeah.
I'm selling this service, this option, this software, this whatever, and it's payable only in boom. It's like saying at a restaurant, well, we accept MasterCard and Visa, but we don't handle, cash or American Express.
You know what's cool?
And then
One
that
thing,
matter could be burned. And I think you had talked about that before. Someone else had suggested that. Maybe it was
yeah,
Identity
Shrek 2.
Frequency. I don't remember.
Shrek 2 on DVD
With
was the handle that was talking about
good.
burning
So
matter.
see,
Yeah.
that's beautiful because then that, you know, gosh, I don't want to jump into such a marketplace here, but one of the things that's very attractive to matter for me is that it's got such a small supply.
Mhm.
We just barely broke 1 million.
Yeah. Yeah.
in total supply. So we have a scarcity, but the price isn't reflecting that scarcity in the market, in my opinion, because A, nobody really knows that DIN exists, and B,
Mhm.
the rewards right now are all contained within DIN because it doesn't have a reward price outside of DIN, so people don't cash out. But if we created a thing where we're forcing people to use matter and we're then burning that matter on when creating private DAOs, private
Mhm.
layers, whatever, then wow, I think that's a win-win for DIN.
Yeah, it's you know what and this is, the more I do this, the more I learn, like anything else in life. But the thing with the what the holdup was? It was with this DAO that I was talking to, there was a reluctance to pay in matter, because there is when they checked it out, it came down to messaging and how I said it, because with a 20% discount on 1 ether, that means 0.8 ether worth of matter, right? Well, if you, depending on how you look at it and how you think, whenever you go to buy matter on Uniswap right now, there's very thin liquidity because not a lot of people have been interested in adding liquidity to get that governance weight. That hasn't seemed to be an incentive for people. So the concern was that the way that they were calculating it was like, well, if we try to buy that much matter, then the slippage is such that, like, by the time we get enough matter to make 0.8 ETH worth of matter or whatever, we'll have spent actually over 1 ether, so we can't actually do that. And so what I said was, no, that's not the concern. All you need to do is put in 0.8 in Uniswap, and whatever number that gives you, regardless of what the liquidity slippage is and stuff like that, that's the number you send in as your fee. And if there's ever a question, we can always go to Ethereum and look at the swap on chain and verify, yep, you put in 8.8 ether and you got this many matter, that your fee, it is what it is on the open market, that kind of thing. And once I explained it to them that way, they were like, oh, well, that's easy. That's fine. You know what I mean? So, like, explaining it in a way that's less confusing, but also, like, these are crypto people. You know what I mean? So they weren't thinking of it in a way that I was trying to explain it. They were thinking of it more mathematically. And they even, like, most people don't even understand the slippage thing. And so if DEN is primarily crypto people, we just have to learn how to make it easy for them to not worry about the low liquidity thing, because then they're interacting with the economy. They're contributing to the economy and things like that. It looks like I just lost I am for I am. But yeah, so stuff like that. And then the next thing, what's up, Hyperion Frequency? Thanks for joining us. We're just talking about the quarterly report and I am for I am's analysis of it. And then we went into economy balance and things we can do to get people to use matter and reasons to go get it, that kind of thing. So since we lost I am, that was kind of most of what I wanted to say in that category of the agenda anyway. The other thing I wanted to talk about is still related, which is what would it look like to do something like white labeling or forking DIN for whatever reason. I wish I am was still on right now too, because he'd have some interesting input, I'm sure. But basically, I don't know how this is going to go yet, but I'm talking to a commercial real estate general contractor, and he's been doing commercial real estate for like over 2 decades at least, and he's highly interested in being disruptive in a way that is beneficial to the local community, and he would like to build on Dragon Chain, which is where Den is built. And I had lunch with him yesterday, and we were talking about. Hey, you're back. Can you hear me?
I'm back.
Cool. Hey, I moved on to the next thing, but it's still related.
Good.
And I didn't get very far, so let me just recap. I don't know. There's no guarantee this is going to work out or how it's going to go, but I'm talking to a commercial real estate developer that I know. He's very good at what he does. He's been doing it for 20 years. He wants to be disruptive in that industry in a way that benefits local communities. And he's got a lot of really excellent ideas and insight on how to get it done. So what he needs is a platform. What he wants to do, though, is pretty dramatically different than what Den is. Like he's going to need a KYC platform where people can trade. Like, what if somebody wanted to white label or fork Den in a way that does not compete with Den? Does that make sense?
Yes,
they use the technology. It's more of a Dragon Chain thing, really. But what DENDAO could do is, for example, to get a prototype going of what he wants to do, we've talked about doing something like white labeling a single layer within Den. And it will probably be a private layer at that, to where it's a prototype to prove that it works, so he can use it on a real commercial property purchase and get people to use this app, where the end user, they just see an app, and maybe it's called, it's got different colors and different branding, and it's got his company name on it or whatever, but it's using the Den tech. And if he is successful on that, he can take that to investors to get them to scale it up, to make it basically use the Den tech in a way that is not really decentralized as much, but still has the option of decentralizing later if they want to. So I kind of was like interested in getting a temperature check on how everyone feels about white labeling Den in a way that would benefit Dragon Chain, but not really necessarily Den, because it would still be using Dragon transactions, but it wouldn't be using the Matter token anymore, and it wouldn't be using, that same ecosystem, right? How do we feel about stuff like that? Because there's concerns. There's like, who's going to maintain it? Who's going to, like, where's the dev resources come from and stuff like that? How much focus does that take away from developing Den itself? And so I just wanted to put it out there because it's something that's really interesting, that if he can get the resources for it, it would be great.
So are you, let me see if I understand correctly. First and foremost is never let an opportunity pass you by. If it presents itself, you always give it careful and solid consideration before throwing it out. It does seem like it is a Dragon Chain.
Yeah, and this is a DENDAO meeting.
All right, I'm using that.
Yeah. But I wanted to bring it up because it's related.
Right. However, if there's a way that Den can be credited for, let's say, the sale, or like a sale commission, or
even like a powered by Den.Social or something.
Right. Yeah. So that every time they log in, they see Den.Social. Any of their users log in, they see Den.Social. Yeah, maybe that would be a second part of that agreement, say sales agreement, right? We sold it, so we get a commission, or Den gets a commission, and that commission payment is you must buy Matter and burn it.
Okay, so basically making it beneficial, the sale itself, because you can call it a fork or a sale itself, is going to be, we need to make sure that it works beneficially for Den.
Right. And the Dragon Chain is still maintaining it and where the expertise lies, you know?
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what I'm thinking, but I don't know Dragon Chain well enough or the infrastructure between the two, Den and Dragon Chain, to answer that, maybe, in an informed manner. But
yeah, it's a
I
really
think,
early. Yeah, I've only been meeting with him for
yeah,
a couple of. I mean, I have been meeting with him for a couple of months.
yeah, but
if not longer. But
it's a great form of advertising for Den. It's a great form of showing what Den can do inside and outside of Den.
Mm-hmm.
So that part's a win-win. It's a win for Dragon Chain because Dragon Chain now is selling the software, if you will.
And at
I
first,
use the term
actually,
software loosely.
at first I was wanting to get him to use Den directly, because that would have been
Right.
huge. You know what I mean? But the more we
Yeah.
talked about it, the more it's like there's a lot of concerns as far as just like USA legal stuff, basically.
Right.
When you're dealing with real estate and you're dealing with tax implications and all
Sure.
kinds of stuff like that. So, like,
And I think in the future, just side note, DENDAO probably in the future is probably going to have to go offshore.
that's possible. Yeah, I don't know where
I don't think
Wyoming
is going to. I don't think Wyoming's going to cut it
No?
as much as I would like that to happen. But
well, that's to be seen. We'll see.
Yeah, but I really like the idea of making Matter have a dual price pressure point.
Mm-hmm.
And if people are selling off, off of Matter, having more, white label Den projects or projects like this one, this might being the first of many that can offset some of that sell off.
Yeah, because what you need is a reason to buy and a reason to sell that is objective and utility that requires that as a moving piece of the machine. I see what you mean. Yeah.
But I argue that Den already has a reason to buy and to sell. Its number one problem is just not enough people in the world know about it. And
that's a fair argument.
And you know what? Yes. Okay. Let's talk about the. Okay. It's a thin, liquidity pool. I get that. But the thin liquidity pool also is a dramatic price increase for Matter, which again, in 2021, it puts you right back into 2021 numbers.
It does. It's if you think about
above and beyond that. So
if you go
I don't know about
if you think about the numbers I was talking about a minute ago, where it costs, let's say it costs 0.8 Ether worth of Matter to buy a customized layer. You can go plug that into Uniswap and see what the effect is, and it's not small. So things like that could go a long way to balancing out.
Right.
And then the other thing was,
again, we could always price it differently accordingly. Like, I don't know. Because
that's a balancing act in itself. You got to attract people. You want to charge too much, especially
sure,
if it's not known. But something else that's like, with these private layers, at least one of them is going to turn public once they launch and announce, which will be helpful. And then also the one that I'm hopefully onboarding that I was talking to last night, if they come in and they like it, they also have a public, right now it's a Telegram channel, but there's 3,000 people in it. And they're pretty motivated to come in and flex Den. And if they come in with their private layer and it works for them and they like it, they've already discussed then opening up a public layer to replace their Telegram channel, which would potentially, move those 3,000 people over to Den. So stuff like that would go a long way to balancing the economy too, just getting more people, scaling up and using it, especially, as you said, crypto people that understand how this all works.
And you know
So
what? In a case like that, even if it's um, their own DAO, and it's separate, a fork of Den, shall we say, that's
mhm.
still going to have some bleed over to Den.Social, I would think.
Yeah,
So in
like
other
if he
words,
becomes
if
if this
3,000 people came over and became their own DAO, which is a kind of a somewhat of a carbon copy of Den.Social, some of that 3,000 are going to probably bleed over to Den anyway, because they're going to be, hey, I know how this works. I understand how the site works.
Mhm. Well, no,
So,
that's what I meant. Those are different things. So the white labeling
oh, okay.
thing is separate. The one that if everything continues the way it is, if they join with their private layer on Den.Social itself, not a white label thing.
Yeah.
If as long as that works out for them, which I don't see why it wouldn't, and they like it, then they've already said they would look at opening another layer that is public, that is not their DAO layer, but is their community layer, right?
Oh, I got you.
Which
It did
which would be
social.
directly on Den with their 3,000 people from Telegram, that kind of thing.
Oh, I love
So
it.
stuff like that is very valuable for us, and that's the kind of thing that I push for and that I look for. Um,
Can I be honest and be frank
yeah,
though? If I were
yeah.
them, I probably wouldn't separate it. In other words, I would
Well,
want.
they've got. I'll just say they got a really good reason to.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
They've got a really good
If
reason
they do.
to have a private one that's limited to their DAO members
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
and a public
Like,
one that is open to the community publicly.
oh, okay. Then
Yeah.
there you go. Well, then yes, then that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool. Oh,
I like. I'm
I
open to
like
the
this
idea too of
discussion.
like
Yeah.
the discussion around only accepting Matter as a way to set up a custom layer is an interesting one as well,
Mhm.
right? So far, there's been an option of an Ether or Matter. We could make it to where Matter only. We could potentially make it to where if they do pay an Ether, some or all of the Ether is used by DENDAO to buy Matter or to burn it or something like that, like Shrek was talking about. All those things are on the table. Everything's on the table,
Right.
So finding ways to to balance that economy is probably a really good idea. That and onboarding people that get it so they'll stick around, because a lot of people, frankly, again, especially people that, as much as we want to cater and make it easy to people that aren't crypto people, which is
Hmm.
definitely the case, like you can learn it if you try. People that already understand how blockchain and crypto stuff work, those have been all along the people that are most excited about it and most supportive, because they understand what's going on and how it works, and they're into it, so
Gotcha.
it could be that we focus on that more than we have been, and maybe we try that for a while in messaging, like
Hmm.
we don't want, like, I don't want to do in the beginning. I was reluctant, and I don't want to drag this meeting out for a whole lot longer, but I will say that in the beginning I was reluctant to focus on cryptocurrency as a subject matter for Den, because
Uh-huh.
I saw some other networks launch that way, and it became, I don't
All about
know.
the money.
It was just like, Steam It, for example,
Yeah.
was something that I thought was great. And they had an unfortunate issue with centralization and a hostile takeover where, um,
Right.
they had an exchange use their governance tokens against them, like things like that it wasn't really in their
Yeah.
control. But at the same time, they also restricted initially. I don't know if you were watching it that early, but in the beginning, they only allowed like communities or whatever they called layers or sections, categories that were related to like cryptocurrency and stuff like that.
Right.
And the reason for that was because that's who was there, and they wanted to concentrate people in the same room to make it more lively, understandably.
Sure.
So,
Well,
um,
I think what threw me off early on with Steam it was too one-sided for the whales on to make a lot of money,
mhm,
and others really couldn't. And I didn't think that model was going to last.
mhm.
So that created a restrictive problem. And I'm a big fan of Jeff Berwick, and Jeff Berwick was talking every day just about how great Steam it was.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah,
but
it was definitely. I don't want like I'm not I'm not shitting
Yeah.
on Steam at all.
Me neither.
I just want to avoid some of the issues that they had.
And that's why I like Den, because I felt Den is a fair and just way to incentivize and reward content and evaluators. So that's
Cool.
it.
Well, I hope
It's
that
very
continues once we move back to leaderboard. Leaderboard, I'm going to try to go ham on because there's a bunch of cool shit. Like everything that's on chain can be represented graphically in a way that's really cool to watch happen.
Right.
I'm going to try my damnedest to get wrapped up by Monday, and so that by the time we have our next meeting next week, we can say officially, hey, we're ready to move back to working on leaderboard again. That's my goal. And realistically, I think we'll be there.
As a denizen, and there might be people that are going to really be upset with me saying this, and as much as I would like to know the number, the question is, how many active users are really on Den? I don't know if it's a good idea to publish that or not yet. I'm really 50-50 on that. And so I'm pushing back to those that are on the inside of Den to have that discussion. I wish I almost put it as
I just looked at it. Do you want me to tell you?
No, okay. I don't want to know. I don't want to know yet if anything. As much as I'll put it
in private chat. Since nobody else is on the call, I'll put it in private chat. This is how many active UI sessions are open. Like on various devices, have a UI session open on Den at the moment.
Okay, so that the question is, there going to be those people that are going to say, "Oh wow, I thought it was a lot more than that. I'm done," and move off of Den. Yeah. Or there's going to be those that are saying, well, that's more than I expected, but it's still not a good number, but I'll hang in there anyway. Or there's going to be those that are going to say, well,
I'm interested.
It's a good start.
Do you not want to look? I'm interested if that's lower or higher than what you thought or expected. Do you want to look at it or not?
Yeah, I'm looking at it.
What's your gut feeling on that?
My gut feeling was sometimes I would go back and try to see how many postings were on a day in one given day. And I thought the worst case scenario was half that. And the best case scenario was 3 times that.
Okay.
So I guess I wasn't too far off.
That's not, yeah,
that's
within,
sense? That's so in other words,
so yeah, it's kind of how
Monday
it feels.
Is the weakest
it is what it seems. Yeah. It's cool.
Right. So let's say that Monday
and high period frequency, I'll tell you later too. That's fine. Cause that should be, another discussion with DENDAO is we need to decide what metrics to put up on the leaderboard.
Yeah. Do we want that number up there or not? I don't know.
I don't personally care.
Right now, I'm just so protective of I want transparency, but I'm also protective of retention issues.
Yeah.
So it's a tight rope.
I think it actually is more people than sometimes people presume.
Sure.
Because sometimes it feels so dead that it doesn't seem like there's that many, but there are. And of course that number goes up and down. People are driving home from work right now on East Coast. So who knows what time of day, and you could have a graph that doesn't. You could actually, here's what we do. Here's what I say we do. If there's any concern at all, because there's going to be concerns about showing actual numbers, especially if we start showing like top earners and stuff like that. You probably don't want to show the actual number of rewards they earn. But what we could do is have a graph that shows what time of day the sessions are open, more or less, like patterns, because you can show patterns without showing the actual numbers and stuff like that.
Right. And that's where I was going. I was saying, okay, let's say that Monday afternoon is the least, the fewest amount of users that you're probably going to see. Then I was thinking this number that you put on the private chat was half that on a Monday afternoon, let's say. And the peak time was, I don't know, Friday evening was peak. I don't know what the day of the week or evening or day was peak. And I was thinking it was 3 times that number. So I was somewhat in the ballpark, I guess you could say.
Totally. Yeah. So, it landed right within the sort of like range of expectations. So that's fine. I think it's fine, but we
But
could
you
just
know
do
what?
we could
That
just do
means there's an
a graph
opportunity.
instead. Mhm.
Yeah. That means it's an opportunity. And speaking of price, I will keep it short. But for me, MTR is a steal at the current price, a beyond a steal. It's so
Yeah.
given that what
I
its
I've got a lot
functionality
more
is.
energy these days because I went and grabbed some just to have more energy every day. So yeah,
Yeah.
just because of that.
Right. So
Well,
it's a golden opportunity. Now, what else is on the agenda? Was there any other feedback?
that's basically it. Unless Hyperion Frequency, you had something. We are through an hour too. We're just two reminders and
Yeah.
feed and miscellaneous at this point.
Sounds good.
So
Sounds
we
good.
talked
I
about
think
the we started
that's
out
pretty much
talking
all I
about the
had.
LCP, and so there's 4 days left in that. We talked about the quarterly report and what the numbers show. We talked about some concerns with retention and how to address that. But to address that, we had to identify why the retention went down. And the most obvious thing that correlates to is the incentive, the relative monetary incentives that people think they can get out of it. And if you have a bear market and people don't think it's worth as much as it used to be, I know a few people that was an issue. Just like literally was brought it up as like, I can't make as much as I used to here, so I'm out. Okay. So that's something that we could try to balance by, like I said, it's really a community effort. I focus on things that I feel like I'm good at and that I can do, which is onboarding individuals, yes, but also trying to hit groups and existing organizations and showing them why it would be more convenient for them to operate on this platform than where they are now. So if I can be successful, or maybe we can as a team be successful in that. And, we should have a conversation about how we charge for the layers and if we should put more of an emphasis on making people pay with Matter instead of the option of Ether, or if they pay with Ether, using a portion of that to balance the economy or something like that. Those are really good. I think those are the two most interesting points for further discussion. So that's good.
I agree. I'm going to make a note here in paper and plug it in the agenda next week. Okay.
Cool. Well, cross your fingers. I don't sit on my ass this week and not get shit done. So we'll try to get that. We'll try to get back to leaderboard, because that's something I have a lot of fun with. Is like once you start displaying data, it's interesting to see different ways, because you can come up with anything at that point. Correlating data and showing different stuff. So with that, we'll wrap up. We've got so for reminders, questions for World Blockchain Roundtable, for Super Happy Dragon Lucky, and for Coffee with Den. Super Happy is on Tuesdays, Coffee with Den's on Wednesdays, and World Blockchain is on Thursdays. Each of those have a different focus. All of those are open for input and questions and AMA in some fashion, right? So go put your questions into those, and they're all, if I understand correctly, they're all rewarded too. So interaction. I've got to issue some more lot for coffee. I haven't minted lot for a while, so I got to go catch up on that.
Super.
Other than that, yeah, I'll see y'all next week. Have a good weekend. And I'll see you around.
One last comment.
Yeah, sure.
So this is Santa Claus as a hacker.
Oh.
So if I were Santa Claus as a hacker, that's what I would look like. If
your
hacker,
image.
See, it's a Santa beard with sunglasses, but in a hacker kind of motif.
There you are. Let's blow it up. Yeah, I like it. So, yeah, the hacker thing with the hoodie is classic. I love that.
Yeah, having said
my favorite
that,
is when they're on TV and they have two people typing on the same keyboard, because it's faster that way, because they're extra hackery. Yeah,
there you go.
I love those.
So for those who come back and watch this, I'm encouraging people to go check out Coffee with Den. And if I can attend, I shall show my face.
All right. I'd love to see you there. Have a good weekend. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Hyperion Frequency. And we will continue the conversation next Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern. Thanks.
All right. Thanks.
Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best.
Adaptable, all capital, label radical yet rational. A tactical approach is palpable if this animal is fallible. But that conclusion is laughable, so with for all detachable from the mandible, you see it now?